I'm Joe Randolph, President and CEO of the Innovation Institute, which was a new organization that was launched out of St. Joseph about in January. Been working on it for a couple years, and we're excited to have the first Inventor Forum today and to basically roll out the Innovation Institute's ideation process across the system. We'll be going out to each one of the ministries and describing it in more detail at each of the ministries, but this is kind of the kickoff today. We've got some of our friends and partners from Cleveland Clinic here today, so you'll hear from them, as well as we've got a panel discussion set up that we're going to have. And there will be plenty of time to ask questions. We'll stay around afterwards and answer questions. But during the presentation, what we'll do is we're going to put up a phone number for text messages so that we can capture all the questions, and then we'll try to answer some of them today, and the ones we don't get to, we will send out via Q&A so that we can answer all the questions. So I'm going to start out with just giving an overview, a quick overview of what the Innovation Institute is before we get into the actual discussion with our guest speaker here. A lot of you have probably seen this model, but I thought it might be helpful. I'm a visual person, just to kind of walk through the actual business model. At the top, you'll see there's 7 systems, and so this was set up to be a collaborative. Our strategic purpose was to focus on innovation and growth, and I've got to give Deborah Proctor credit for being the visionary and having the foresight to push this, and I think the timing couldn't be better with what we're all facing with healthcare reform and the challenges in healthcare today. So you'll see at the top we have 7 slots for 7 health systems. There was an announcement went out this week. We basically announced that our second health system is now joined, and that's Bon Secours. And many of you who have been here a while will remember Rich Statuto, who is the CEO of Bon Secours, and so they're now a partner. And we're talking to several other systems, and we'll be announcing some others hopefully in the next few months in terms of other members that will be investing. The model itself is a for-profit limited liability company. There's 3 elements within the Innovation Institute. On the left, you'll see it says the Innovation Lab, and that is meant to be the incubator component of the Innovation Institute. And we did a lot of research before setting this up, and one of the things we found is a lot of the incubators that get set up struggle in the early years because they don't have the cash flow to sustain themselves, because as you develop and commercialize products and ideas, it takes time before you see that actual revenue flow come back into the organization. And so what we did is we set up different elements within the Innovation Institute so that we could have immediate cash flow and be able to sustain ourselves and be financially viable for the long haul. So the Innovation Lab is the part on the left. We're going to be spending most of this morning in the discussion talking about that part of it. The middle piece is called the Enterprise Development Group, and that's basically, if you think of it as a portfolio of companies or shared services or best practices that the member systems at the top can access and use, and then any profits from that go back into the Innovation Institute to underwrite and support innovation. And so the thought behind that was oftentimes health systems and hospitals outsource functions, and when they do that, every time we do that, we're giving margin to somebody else. And so the plan was, let's put some of those services within the Innovation Institute, capture that margin can then go back to underwrite innovation, and so that's what that is. And then the third element is a growth fund, and we're going to raise capital from outside investors for that fund. We think that it's very similar to Sante Health Ventures or Heritage Fund or Ascension Health Ventures Fund. There's a lot of funds out there. We thought it was important that we have that because it brings market intelligence, and there's a lot of synergy with the Innovation Lab in terms of new ideas and concepts that we're working on. So that's just a real quick brief overview. You'll hear more about it as we roll it out at each one of the ministries, but I wanted to give you that oversight before we actually get into some of the discussion today. At your tables, there's brochures that you can take with you that kind of give some of that information that I just shared. But what I'd like to do is get right into it and introduce our guest and partner, Dr. Thomas Graham. Dr. Thomas Graham is the Chief Innovation Officer of Cleveland Clinic Innovations, the technology commercialization arm of Cleveland Clinic, where he holds the Justice Family Chair in Medical Innovations. Additionally, Dr. Graham is the Vice Chairman of the Department of Orthopedic Surgery of Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio. Dr. Graham is one of Cleveland Clinic's most prolific inventors with more than 40 issued patents. He's able to utilize his accomplishments in medical leadership and entrepreneurial endeavors and became the inaugural chair for the Justice Family Chair in Medical Innovations in 2011. Dr. Graham received his undergraduate degree in chemistry, a BS with honors from Williams College of Massachusetts. He received his doctorate of medicine from the University of Cincinnati. His residency training in orthopedic surgery was completed at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and he completed his fellowship in hand and upper extremity surgery at the renowned Indiana Hand Center. From 1981 to 1984, Dr. Graham was affiliated with the United States Olympic Committee as an exercise physiologist during the 1984 Los Angeles Olympic Quadrennium. Dr. Graham has published numerous articles on almost every aspect of hand and upper extremity surgery. He's lectured widely around the world and edited several books. He was the director of the Curtis Hand Institute, where he launched the Arnold Palmer Sports Medicine Center in Baltimore, where he serves as the surgeon-in-chief of the Palmer Center, directing operations and strategy. He didn't want me to go through this next section, but I find it really interesting, so I'm going to do it. Dr. Graham served as the hand surgery consultant for the Baltimore Ravens, the Philadelphia Flyers, Cleveland Indians, Washington Nationals, Toronto Blue Jays, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Cleveland Browns. He's recognized as a hand surgery consultant for the NHL, Major League Baseball, and the NFL, and he was recognized for his work with the PGA Tour as well as the Cleveland Symphony and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Dr. Graham is involved in multiple civic initiatives and organizations. He's married to his childhood sweetheart, Cece. And when I say childhood sweetheart, it's not like they met in high school. They went to kindergarten together. They have two daughters, Margaret and Elizabeth. He enjoys golf, outdoor activities, traveling, and anatomic drawing. Dr. Graham has experienced our healthcare system both as a caregiver and also as a patient. A year ago, he had a severe pancreatitis attack and was given less than a 10% chance of survival. After 20 surgeries and great care at the Cleveland Clinic, he's back now with us. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Graham, who's going to talk to us about it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Kind of embarrassing. Usually I get Thomas Graham, aging hand surgeon in the twilight of a mediocre career. That's probably more what I deserve. You mentioned partnership. I already feel very connected to the individuals here, as well as the system and the Innovation Institute, St. Joe's Health as a System, and the Innovation Institute. And you'd say, well, geez, why haven't I seen this guy if this has been going on for a while? And you just heard kind of why that is the case. I was struggling this time last year. I think I was in the ICU, intubated on dialysis and stuff like that. So it's true, I've really gotten the benefit of the support and prayers of a lot of people in this room. That's very meaningful. And, you know, I don't consider myself an arrogant man, but man, do I know a lot about the healthcare system. I mean, when you've been on both sides of the bed rail now for the last 25 years, and then this last year where I was in the patient role, I certainly learned a lot. And frankly, you know, innovative care and collaboration saved my life. So I'm obviously a big fan of that. And it kind of makes you think that as a physician, you're a real kind of advice giver, right? You just fall into that role. And last year, I've been a real advice taker. And I guess if I would say that today maybe you are in the role of an advice taker, we need to answer some questions for you. Kind of the who's, what, where, when, why. And I certainly would like the folks here who have taken their valuable time and those who are on the simulcast to make sure we try to touch all those bases. And you leave here with a real idea of why this is important and what we're doing to do it. So first of all, just for my benefit, how many physicians in the room? That's fabulous. Fabulous. Nurses? Great. Executives? Just get an idea. Well, and I know we can't really poll the outside viewers. How many innovators are there in the room? So like 10% of the hands went up, right? How can that be? And I'll just pick something I know about, medicine. You know, it's so Darwinian. You have to be the valedictorian in high school, so you get to college where you can be on the dean's list, so where you can get the residency or medical school, so you can get honors, so you can go to residency. This kind of pyramid like that. You can't tell me that not everybody in this room is a problem recognizer and problem solver. And that's what innovation is. It's understanding the challenges and synthesizing the information that really allows us to answer today and tomorrow's questions. So if innovation is a concept to many, for the folks like Joe, like us at Cleveland Clinic Innovations, it's an extremely tangible exercise. It has metrics around it. It has discipline around it. We are constantly looking at the dashboards related to it, and we think that that's really important. So just a kind of a brief history of who we are, Cleveland Clinic Innovations. We're very proud as an institution to have nearly a century of creative thought in techniques and technology. Obviously the Cleveland Clinic's known a lot for things in cardiac care, the first cardiac angiography, open heart surgery, first renal dialysis, kidney transplant, face transplant, and that is really why we're in business, of course. But the concept of innovations, as we've defined it, kind of started in the 90s, frankly, when I really didn't have the personal resources to advance my small nascent patent portfolio. I had a young family, and so I really couldn't move that forward. I went into the then CEO and the individual who's now our chief of staff and said, hey, how do we handle that here? The answer was, geez, I don't know. What do you want to do? And I said, let's go halfers. Let's partner the individual inventor and the institution. Kind of made sense. Well, since then, it's really grown and gestated to a fairly large-scale commercialization. Some people understand the concept of technology transfer organization that brings forward the solutions that are coming from our talented people who recognize the problems. And so how do we do it? Well, again, process is at the very foundation of this. And I tend to call it the virtuous cycle. So at the bedside or the laboratory bench side, an unmet need is recognized. And the good news is the person recognizing usually is a world expert. And they say, wait a minute, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, so, right? So I've seen that implant fail 4 times in the same place. Geez, if we just did that, I don't think it would fail anymore. Well, regrettably, if an organization or an individual doesn't have a mechanism by which you can gestate that idea, again, through this cycle, a virtuous cycle of legal, engineers, prototyping, investment, divestment, regulatory, and get it returned to them so they can help people, then it may lay fallow. And to us, that is one of the real tragedies, and it's challenging. We understand it. People have a dedication to serving other human beings by rendering care, but they're busy. And sometimes something like advancing the state of the art just doesn't quite make it on your list of things that you woke up with that morning. And so having in place a process where these flywheels are running, staffed by experienced people with business intelligence and relationships in the investment community, and frankly equipment, 3D printers, 5-axis machines. They don't grow on trees, and so we set out to aggregate all those assets. And we're very proud with the way that has come about. It's allowed us to spin out 66 portfolio companies. I should probably say, on a daily basis, we manage about 500 or 600 royalty-bearing licenses. We've brought in over $750 million of equity investment in what we do. We're super proud that we've created about 1,200 jobs, really important for an area like northeastern Ohio, a former industrial giant that now is a knowledge-based economy. I've returned probably about $65 million to our inventors. That usually gets a little attention around the room. So this is an important margin of difference for us. So, if that is the kind of how, why? Well, this is the easiest answer I always make. We do this to improve and extend human life, period. So if anybody says, geez, you guys are out there trying to commercialize these ideas, you're a not-for-profit organization, I feel very aligned with our core mission to heal the sick, investigate their problems, and teach future leaders. So that's really easy. This does not depart from it. It enhances it, expands it. And I think that that's really a critical margin of difference that can be celebrated by any for-profit or not-for-profit organization. It can also be a margin of difference to recruit, retain, and reward top talent. It's difficult. It's difficult in Cleveland, Ohio. If an individual is trying to determine whether to practice in Atlanta or Texas or California or Cleveland, where I left the snow on the ground, we need not only an organization of colleagues who are dedicated and excellent, but also things that distinguish us as an institution. And this is one of those things. It's something that we've done for about 15 years. We've done it well. We have measurable results, and I think that that is really, really critical. I guess from an inventor perspective, I guess I would say that a little bit of this discussion was supposed to be about my personal journey as kind of a surgeon inventor. And you heard a little bit about my practice is dedicated mostly to athletes. And so I guess I've made almost every mistake. And so when I was a rookie, I thought, hey, listen, I'm real excited about, I'm a creative guy, I'm thinking about this. And you'd have people from industry take you out to dinner. And I couldn't wait to scribble on the napkin, right? Here, if you could just do this. And then what would happen, I'd open the journal about a year later, and there's something, wait a minute, I figured that out. And they said, well, yeah, you did. Congratulations. You gave it over to us for the price of, a steak and a glass of Coca-Cola. So that's a rookie mistake, right? Or the next level up from that, let's say you're a minor leaguer, you have large strategics say, hey, listen, why don't you come and be on our scientific advisory board? And again, you're usually a young person, you want to interact with other colleagues, you've read their papers, and you say, yeah, that's a great idea. Maybe they'll, I'll get to go out to Los Angeles or Naples and, a weekend and have a think tank. That's great too, but there goes your IP with it. Where I want everybody in all our organizations to start is at the level of protectable intellectual property. That's like a major league move, where we have the resources as organizations to stimulate ideation, to collect it, and to nurture it to the commercial markets. And that starts to be something that is extremely impactful. Then there's the all-star. The all-star move is getting something across the finish line, getting a deal done. And then the Hall of Famers, those are guys who are serial entrepreneurs, serial inventors, or those who are collaborating. Innovation happens at the intersection of knowledge domains. And that's, again, why I think it's important to have our organizations both represented here today. But that, to me, is kind of like the life cycle of the inventor. You make some mistakes, but I don't think you need to reproduce the ones that I made during my career, because with the resources and infrastructure available that the dedicated people of the Innovation Institute and St. Joe's Health are wrapping around, we all have access to that. And so getting the word out that this room full or this audience full of innovators can become inventors and contributors by embracing and working within a structure that does everything from allow adherence with policy to take ideas as far as you can get them in regard to getting back to the commercial marketplace. And then I guess the when, that's the last part of the question, the who, what, when, why, is now. It used to be when, 15, 20 years ago when I was kind of starting this journey, again, these resources weren't as organized and available. And leaders of health systems now are wrestling. Listen, there's a lot going on. I mean, how can you not understand that? We're all in healthcare, right? But the people on the street know that healthcare right now has a lot of ambiguity, has a lot of challenge. How are we going to take care of larger populations more effectively? Value-based care, something we believe really strongly in. How are we going to do that? And that occupies a lot of our time. As an officer of our organization, it occupies a lot of my time. But this, again, gives us an additional characteristic that we can develop, celebrate, and again, gives us opportunity and opportunities to the individual. And why, if you're sitting at the leadership position of a large health system, should you be thinking about this? is obvious, I think. But then how you get in the game is the question, and that's why when we really analyzed our activities, capabilities, we asked, is it a scalable and transferable skill? That being the codification and growth in innovations, and we thought it was. And so we started to embark on that. And we found culturally aligned institutions who embraced the concept of innovation, who were, poised for significant growth, who again had a dedication to the individuals they serve. And we want the Cleveland Clinic to be the best partner in medicine, best partner with our own patients, with our physicians, with referring physicians, but with other organizations. Because heretofore, medicine doesn't have a great history of partnership. There's been a lot of superior subordinate type relationships. There's been a lot of A but not much M, a lot of acquisition but not much true merger. And I know there's lawyers shuddering all over the Cleveland Clinic when I talk about partnerships and mergers, but I'm talking maybe with the small letter M. But how can we work together? Because here's a tragedy, I think. And this happened to me. I was asked by a local reporter when we announced our relationship with a fairly large $2 billion system in Toledo, Ohio, about 100 so miles west of us. Wait a minute. They're your competitors. They're in the same state. Okay, if you want to define yourself by a single patient, a group of patients who may be flipping a coin to go east 50 miles or west 50 miles to get their knee scoped, that's pretty unidimensional, pretty myopic. Whereas if there's an inventor on that campus, has a great idea, is going to have the next cure for something that's battling the human race, and they don't have any way of expressing and growing that napkin gets thrown away or shoved in the desk drawer. Who fails to benefit? Patient failed to benefit. The inventor gets nothing. The institution or organization gets nothing, and no jobs are created. Everybody loses. Well, wait a minute. We're here with capability and innovation that can be shared and is almost non-competitive. We can collaborate with anybody. We can collaborate with the hospital across the street from us on innovation. And if that's the case, everybody could win. That idea could have a gestation through that virtuous cycle we discussed, and all of a sudden, everybody wins. The patients are helped by it. The inventor benefits, as they should. The institution celebrates it, and jobs are created, and that's a sustainable way to contribute to the community economic development. And frankly, I think it's pretty patriotic. I'm a huge patriot. So that's just kind of a quick overview. I know it probably is in many ways inadequate, but I hope that you get the flavor that when we are able to put together complementary and supplementary skill sets, resources, relationships, as our two organizations have been, and there's more, there's several others, and we can list them and describe how it's worked. I think that is going to be the future of how we need to tackle the biggest problems facing us in medicine. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and certainly want to answer all your questions. Okay.
I think what I'll do next, again, because of the time constraint, hopefully you all think we made the right choice by working with Cleveland Clinic as our alliance partner. What that means is that when our employees and physicians submit ideas, we're going to tap into the researchers and the scientists and the physicians and the experts at Cleveland Clinic who have done this for years, and they'll be reviewing the ideas to determine whether they have commercial applicability or if there's something that we can help incubate and develop. So I'm really excited about the partnership. We're going to talk more about that. Larry's going to come up and facilitate a panel discussion. And so here the number for you, if you have questions, if you can text them to this number. And Larry will also stay afterwards and take questions from the audience as well. And so I'd like to invite Larry up. Larry, many of you know Larry. He was the Chief Information Officer for St. Joseph for years. He was recognized as one of the up-and-coming CIOs in the nation. and he has worked both at for-profit and nonprofit organizations. He speaks around the country on innovation and technology, and so Larry, if you want to just come on up and introduce the panel.
Good afternoon. The first thing I'd like to do before we jump into the panel is to show a video. I think we like multimedia. It's short, it grabs your attention, it will be available on our website, but I think it describes in somewhat of an innovative fashion just kind of that idea, that process of taking an idea into the review process and what that cycle looks like. And then after that, we'll start the panel.
At the Innovation Lab, our mission is to advance the best and brightest ideas from across and within the St. Joseph Health System. We create a culture of innovation that inspires physicians and employees to shape and transform their ideas from concepts to inventions to commercial products and services. We have 7 quick steps to help you start your inventor journey. Admit you're creative and have something important to contribute. Go to our website and familiarize yourself with the commercialization process. Familiarize yourself with the intellectual property policy and what it means for you. Now, download the Invention Disclosure Form, or IDF. Fill out the IDF with as much detail as possible. If questions arise, contact Inventor Services at lab@ii4change.com. Submit your completed IDF through this website. And pat yourself on the back for the first step well done, and a rewarding process just begun. We will be in touch with next steps, including evaluation, proof of concept, protection, and compensation. To simplify, just imagine that your idea is a wave of innovation, an InnoWave from a vast ocean of ideas that spills into the Innovation Lab for review. The lab is an innovation sandbox where your idea will be evaluated and next steps will be taken. If you have an idea, submit it, or go help solve one of the challenges on our website. Jump in, innovate, and create a brighter future for healthcare.
All right, thank you very much. So that will be a resource that we'll be able to tap on our website. So I'm going to introduce the panel and we'll start a discussion. I believe there is again a text phone number if you want to text questions. And that is available from across this web simulcast as well. So those here in the room, as well as those watching on the simulcast, and we'll put the phone number up. I think you've heard from Dr. Graham, a great introduction, great words of wisdom. We can dig a little deeper on the panel. I'd also like to introduce Patricia Eisenhardt. She is new to the Innovation Institute in the lab. She's our executive director. She came from Ohio Health and has a great deal of experience in technology transfer and commercialization and new startup organizations. And then Brian Kolinick, who is with Cleveland Clinic Innovations. He's the general manager of the Alliance program and a great partner who's been working with us for a little bit over a year to get this thing off the ground. So again, we've got the phone number up here. So I'll start off with some questioning. Dr. Graham, maybe ask you one first. That you really explained something that was been well thought out, that's been successful. But somebody in the room or across the health system might be thinking, well, will I get rich quick? So what do you think? You can grab either.
Yeah, well, undoubtedly. I mean, that's. I would approach it a couple different ways. We feel that there's great promise when experts like yourselves understand that one of the challenges you face is the participation in sequential activity, right? Can't see more than one patient at a time. But when you can invent something and it can be put in dozens, hundreds, thousands of times, I say put in again, the orthopedic surgeon in me, utilized many, many times, then that's a scalable number, right? And that is how one mechanism by which you could be compensated. And then, of course, the other is by aggregating ideas into a company. And the time between the napkin idea and that can be relatively short for something like a health information technology application, or it can be lengthy for a drug, right? So there are a lot of variables. But we do know that having a process in place that is operational, seasoned, or experienced certainly accelerates that. And choosing to work together is another way to do it. Again, like I'd say, when that kind of thing where I said the rookie, the minor leaguer, the major leaguer, it's adding zeros. You know, giving away your intellectual property, you know, indiscriminately is definitely not where you want to be. Whereas the more you can protect it and gestate it within organizations like ours, and we're the same kind of folks. That's where I hope that the trust really comes from. Is we're facing the same other challenges in medicine as you are. We've just decided to make this a priority, as have you. So having these opportunities certainly going to keep more of the potential financial benefit for the individual inventor. And I guess I'll just say that 40% in perpetuity with no limit of the revenue from an invention goes to the inventor. That's sacrosanct in our institution. And that's an extremely generous policy that we started with and will continue to have.
That's great. And that leads directly into another topic as far as the percentages, the net proceeds. You mentioned the 40% that goes to the inventor, and that is part of the new St. Joseph intellectual property policy that's just been put in place. So it really stands behind what I think is an industry best practice in rewarding those creative folks. So you think, okay, well, if there's 40% going to the innovator, there's 60% going somewhere else. So maybe, Patricia, I'd turn to you and say, what are the services and what are the capabilities that an inventor will get for the balance of that intellectual property?
Well, that is something that we're still mapping out. But I can speak to that in general terms. First of all, when a new concept is brought to our office, either through the online invention disclosure form or even through a personal interview, you know, we're happy to meet with folks one-on-one. I think the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the premise of the new product concept that's been brought to us. We're going to ask questions from the clinical standpoint and also from an economic standpoint. How strong is the need for this type of product? How strong is the value proposition? And come back to the innovator with feedback on that basic premise. If we do find that the premise is something that is strong, that appears to be great groundwork for a new product, we'll move it into a more intensive process of basically nurturing the concept. That may begin with intellectual property protection, if that doesn't already exist. We may do some models or prototypes that can be used in a proof of concept study. For instance, you have a small interventional device and you'd like to try it out in a cadaver. You know, through our partnership with the Cleveland Clinic, we can do a rapid prototype and take it into that cadaver lab, or perhaps use some software to model fluid dynamics and see if your hunch is right in terms of, you know, will we really get better flow in this catheter if we put some angles and novel structures in it. So we'll look at proof of concept. And I think we'll also do a deep dive on the market potential. So whereas in the beginning we're going to look more at you know, the overall premise, later on we take a deeper look at who are the competitors, you know, how strong are they, what are the forces in that market right now that are driving the future success of players in that particular segment of the industry. What are the customers doing? What are the payers doing? So we'll look at this whole constellation and really begin to get a stronger look at the business plan for moving the product concept forward. As Dr. Graham mentioned, that may take the form of a new startup company, or it may go out through some sort of license structure. Might even be, there may be some other creative business structures that we can use. We're looking at some sponsored partnerships with major players in the medical industry right now. And so we'll look at those avenues for moving the product into the market. And through our partnership with the Cleveland Clinic, we'll reach out to the partners that make the most sense for that particular project and engage with them, even negotiate terms and execute the business agreement itself, then on an ongoing basis monitor it and ensure that they're compliant with the terms to which everyone agreed.
All right.
Can I just add one thing
Yeah.
to that?
Absolutely.
I'm a simple guy from Appalachia, remember, and I told you that the road's been bumpy for me. I mean, I wasn't born into this amount of knowledge and experience, so I'm scabbed over, but I'm not healed in yet. I think you got to tell them that having a portion of something is a heck of a lot better than having all and nothing.
Right.
And so when you hear those percentages, you say, well, wait a minute, I could have this whole thing. Well, if you're able to aggregate the legal, engineering, prototyping, regulatory, investment, you have all the time to do that, good luck to you. And obviously, you also have to be in compliance with your own intellectual property policies. But
Right.
that's the difference. I mean,
Right.
we've just had so much experience now with taking ideas to the marketplace. I can't even imagine, even with the level of modest level of sophistication I now maintain, of ever going it alone. I don't think it can be done in today's market.
That is great. One of the questions that just came across was, so why should I not do this alone? So that's excellent.
Do you do your own hand surgery?
Right. I don't.
But I mean, the idea is this is now a well-developed expertise,
Right.
capability that we are sharing. We're informing each other as institutions. We're involved in a network of other collaborators. We just have kind of the juggernaut of medical innovation.
Right. Right. So, Brian, thank you. So Brian, just quickly, I'm sorry, not quickly. Can you take a moment to talk about some of the track record, some of the, and this came in on the text as well from someone here in the room, I can see the area codes, to talk about the track record of Cleveland Clinic, maybe use some impressive examples of what's come through, and touch on maybe a little bit of the alliance, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And Dr. Graham discussed some of the tangibles when we talk about 67 spin-off companies that have been created at Cleveland Clinic, over close to 500 license agreements, $60 million plus given back to inventors. Those are the tangible examples, and I think there's an entirely different intangible, which is instant ROI, which is creating a culture of innovation within an organization. Who doesn't want to be treated by an innovative organization? Who doesn't want to work for an innovative organization that really fosters their ideas? And I think one of the key differences that we've established at Cleveland Clinic is it's not an exclusive endeavor. It's not limited to Dr. Graham in the OR who understands, hey, this scalpel could be better if it had this coating on it, or someone that's doing bench research. I actually put an invention disclosure in this year. Turned out to be a bad idea, but I put it out there. But I think you can't really get a hit unless you take a couple of swings, and that's what we're trying to encourage, is that this is an inclusive endeavor where everybody can be involved. And as far as the alliances go, I mean, touching on some of them that currently we're partnered with. MedStar Health, which is the largest provider in the Mid-Atlantic in the Baltimore, D.C. area. North Shore Long Island Jewish, which is the largest provider in New York. Notre Dame, Touchdown Jesus, and they don't have a medical school. We don't have a football team, so we thought it would be a great partnership. I stole that one from Dr. Graham. and then amongst other partners. And we look at this as an opportunity for the partners to be able to come together within the alliance to not be in silos, but actually work together. The alliance itself creates the opportunity to bring down those barriers of competition and really being able to hone in on each other's capabilities and work together collectively. And when we look at partners and who we're going to work with within the alliance, Innovations Institute really stood out as being a very sophisticated group that we're learning from daily. And together we think we can do some really great things.
Very, very good. And you touched on culture, and one of the questions that came across, Google actually asked 20% their employees 20% of their time to be focused on innovation. So with everyone's very busy schedules, how do we create and instill that culture of innovation without kind of this mandate that a technology company might have?
Following on my discussion, how innovation is a very tangible process for us, I would say, first of all, having structured ideation, teaching people that this type of endeavor exists and about the mileposts through which their ideas could transit to return benefit to patients and themselves. So education, and that goes, that's the follow-on to Brian's cultural discussion. And then, frankly, the mechanism where it works the best is if there are ambassadors, champions, evangelists for innovation that are distributed throughout an organization, and then complete buy-in from the C-suite. So those are the catalytic components that allow this to get up and running and make it accessible for the innovators on the front line, who understandably have to go back and to their day job and continue to work. None of us, certainly at the beginning, said, hey, I'm a creative guy, and we went into our CEOs and said, hey, give me half time off, because I know if I can look out the window and I'll come up with some great ideas. It doesn't work that way, and it didn't work that way in the 80s when I started, and it doesn't work that way now. But if this is weaved into the fabric of your organization, as it already is, and it's just being activated nicely by these catalytic relationships, I believe that sets the stage to abruptly increase the innovation index of an organization.
Excellent. Please.
I think one of the really fun things about leading these hospital-based innovation programs for me has been to basically work with the nurses and doctors to learn the process of innovation. As Dr. Graham mentioned earlier, it is a rational process with well-defined methods and metrics. And what is really interesting is that the doctors and nurses that come through our program, I mean, maybe they submit an idea, like Brian said, it may be a good idea, it may not, but they come back. And they come back saying, now that I've been through this process once, I never see my whole world looks different. My whole experience in the OR and at the bedside is different. I'm looking at it through a new lens. And so this is one of the things that I'm hoping our innovation program will also bring to the St. Joseph system is this understanding of how to put those innovation methods to work and use a new lens to view daily experience. So that's an aspiration from my standpoint.
That's great, because I know one of the questions that came across was kind of what's the percentage of operational improvement versus just new ideas, commercializable products and devices, and I think that the best mix is if you have an operational improvement of some type, that you get an efficiency internal within your hospital, within the health system, but it also can be commercialized, because chances are other health systems in these times of health reform are facing some of the same operational challenges. So if we can invent something that is somewhat unique, maybe it can't be patented, but it can be trademarked, but still get some type of a revenue stream coming off of that, then you get the best of both. I know there's a question out in the audience. I'm not sure how we handle that because the people on the web won't be able to hear it, but oh, you can text it. Do you have an add-on comment to that?
Oh, I guess I was going to offer the microphone, but what you just described is interesting, because service line improvement we call optimization. Then there is monetization, meaning
Right.
it may not be protectable. It's know-how. You might be strategically utilizing it in your organization, but that could be of a benefit to make it to the marketplace. And then there's the blocking and tackling of commercialization, and that's the technology transfer of a device, an HIT advancement, or pharma, diagnostic or therapeutic. So innovation, yep, it's a broad umbrella, and and you want it to define your organization as creative, and that's how we started this. But then it became not only part of our identity, now it's our responsibility to share it.
Right, right. Thank you. One question that came up several times before has to do with protectability. So patents, that should someone patent their idea first before bringing it forward? So that was a question that came up. I don't want to forget the ones that came up early in the stream
It's a
as well.
good, and you had asked about examples. So one example that we have that I like to share when we have a group is out of one of our alliance partners out of North Shore. It came out of the environmental services, out of the laundry room. The individual was constantly doing the room divider drapes and said, I have to wash these every time. And he realized that they only touch the same portion every time. So why not create a sleeve that can be microbial that can cover that, and then just pull that off, wash that. So that idea came in. So taking the idea, you submit the idea first, and then determine if it's going to be ultimately patented. We look to see if maybe the idea is already out there. But as soon as the idea comes in your head, work on the idea, Google it, see if something's out there, do your own little homework, but then disclose often. Right now, that particular technology does have a patent behind it, and we're currently shopping it to license it to a company that would be able to manufacture it.
Can I add one more time? Yeah, in fact, I would encourage innovators to not file a patent application before approaching us. One of the major points of value that a technology transfer professional will bring to the table is the ability to look at the value proposition for the product, look at the market potential, look at the competitive forces in the market, and understand how to write your patent to be competitive and to be strong in that landscape. So the patent isn't just about the gadget that you have in mind. It's about writing the patent claims to really capture commercial value. So I would say, please let us help you with that.
And one other point to that is anyone that publishes, don't publish and then disclose the invention after that, because once it's published, it's out there. So before even having a paper published, it's best to disclose that invention early.
All right. Great. Thank you. I know we'll show it up here shortly, but a couple of times it's come across, is there a website, is there a resource? We do. It's stjo.org/innovation. So that will be up here at the end. We'll be able to get that information. But it has a lot of resources. It has the video. It also has the commercialization process. So all of the services that Patricia has described are listed out there, as well as the forms, the invention disclosure forms are out there. Another question that kind of is that technology related that came up was, how will we engage employees? Will we use some type of crowdsourcing or something like that to get ideas?
Yes, is the short answer. We have begun working with a platform called Bright Idea, which is a digital innovation platform. We're going to use it in a variety of ways. We will have the opportunity for small groups of users to participate in a structured brainstorming approach to new product innovation. We will also have broader challenges that are open to the entire community. So all St. Joseph Health physicians and other associates will be able to respond to challenges that might be posed by the health system itself, by major medical companies that are out there, by non-medical partners that have technology that may be helpful to the healthcare environment, such as Google. I think Google Glass was one that we were talking about recently. So yes, the platform will be used, for various levels of digital community engagement.
Okay. We're getting close to the end here, so I'll try to to pull in a couple of the questions. One, I believe, was who basically can submit ideas, and it's any employee of the health system, any facet of St. Joseph Health. So on home health, heritage, all parts of the organization. So I hope I answered that piece. And then another question is, again, about kind of the intellectual property. There is the IP policy is on the site as well. So as an employee, you are subject to the intellectual property policy. As someone outside of the organization, you essentially opt into the intellectual property policy as you start to use those services. So if you're not an employee. So, and there will be the email address that you can contact us with those type questions as well. So I'll just, and this one came across a couple times. This would be the last question, but, and I think it's pretty much physician-centric question, but do I have to become a business person if I have an idea? So how much of this do I have to, am I going to be a CEO now and not a doctor, or what's that all about?
If it is indeed, for me, I would say that this supplants your need to divide your time, energies, bandwidth by bringing in expertise who lives in this space. I mean, you know, the seasoned deal professional has seen it all, just like I think I've seen quite a bit of, you know, things in my specialty over the time. And I think one of the biggest challenges is you know, as physicians, we kind of have this concept of kind of transferable expertise. Like, geez, I just saved somebody's life in the ICU this morning. I should be able to run a business or a restaurant or, you know, whatever. Hey, business is challenging. And that's why having your trusted partner, your own health system, aggregating experts in this locally, working in a national, if not international arena with other trusted and culturally aligned organizations, you can't do better than that. So the level of comfort I would maintain as a frontline inventor of bringing my ideas to that is certainly is considerable. And I just can't imagine doing it alone. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I mean, I've done practically, you know, at all levels of these. I've started several companies. Some are successful, some of them not. I've had the very reprehensible thing of buying back my own intellectual property. You know, company. It's kind of like paying ransom for your kid who got kidnapped. So listen, I've seen these challenges, and I just don't want you to have to go through them, because I don't think now that you have to, and I don't think that many of us. And I have a business education addition, but man, turn this over to the folks who are doing it all the time. And then go back and help people. And then the great day is when you say, ma'am or sir, I actually invented the thing that I'm going to use to help you. And that's actually a pretty proud day for you.
Well, thank you very much. That is a great note to end the panel on. I would like to thank our panelists. Give them a round of applause here. So thanks again. I'll turn it back to Joe for the closing words, and then maybe afterwards he can answer some of the fantasy football text about the team that he's put together.
First of all, thank you all for coming, and I apologize that if you had questions and we weren't able to get to them, but if you do text them, we will send out a Q&A and answer those questions. We're going to hang out here for a while for those in the room to answer questions, but I do want to thank those also that participated via the webcast. So visit our website if you have ideas, even if you're not sure about them, submit them, and we'll evaluate each of them and give you feedback. And I'm excited about the potential for what we can do together, and I'm excited about the relationship we have with Cleveland Clinic. So thank you all, and for those that want to stay, we'll be here and we'll take questions and answer them. So.